Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Today we are going to cover theories, which is a subtopic in your 9093 final year's A-level paper, which we are going to cover under the section CLA, Child Language Acquisition. As the name implies, it's all about acquisition, an effort your subconscious is making without voluntarily trying for it. We are going to see how different theorists explain how kids acquire language. The first to start with is B.F. Skinner, an American psychologist whose theory is also called operant conditioning or theory of imitation or reinforcement theory or behaviorism. All of these have subtle nuances to it, which we are going to see in this session. So let's begin with the details. So B.F. Skinner, who is the most influential American psychologist, mentioned that human behaviors can be researched without recourse to inner mental states. Means you don't have to rely on your brain. Instead, you can still change behavior. You can still modify behavior. You can read and modify behaviors. This is possible through constant repetition or reinforcement. So they believe that conditioning can occur when the object of focus is interacted in a given certain environment. The environment will have certain factors which will enable the individual to learn. How environment will have those factors here? By environment, we are going to keep in mind the word stimulus. There are certain favorable stimulus that can modify your subject's behavior without they using their brain. Yes, this is where they are not using their brain, but it is the stimulus that is helping shape their behavior or helping them to acquire language. Since we are not going to study language and psychology without in conjunction, we are going to see them together in these theories. We are going to see the impact of these stimulus on behavior as well as language. So the theorist believed that human behaviors can be modified. He has mentioned that this is also operant conditioning, owing to a few factors where we are going to see a variety, another conditioning as well called the classical conditioning of the subject as well as the operant conditioning of the subject. Both of them are entirely different. If you are withdrawing your hand when you are touching a hot object, your brain, your behavior is exhibiting classical conditioning because this is completely involuntary. If you touch a hot surface, nobody has to tell you that you have to withdraw your hand. Yeah, if you are being assessed, if you are being questioned and you feel any kind of anxiety, again that is an involuntary reaction to a certain stimulus. So when you involuntarily react to a stimulus, you are exhibiting state of classical conditioning, whereas operant conditioning believes that human behaviors can be modified. Now, this is not about reaction. This is about modifying behavior in context of psychology or acquiring a language in context of CLA, where a certain stimulus, in this case called now reinforcement. Positive or negative reinforcement can help shape behaviors. A positive or negative agent or conditioning can help shape behaviors or learn a language. Shape behavior in context of psychology or acquire a language in case of CLA. In both the cases, human brain is inactive and the subject is a passive learner. So, what is positive and negative reinforcement? This is happening in everybody's home. This happens in school as well. If your teacher is rewarding you for completing your work quickly, the child obviously, or you in such a context, next time will also try to win the reward by completing your work quickly. And if your marks are deducted of a poor handwriting, if a child's marks are deducted of poor handwriting or submitting work later than others, then they lose marks. Such kind of reinforcement is a negative impact, a negative stimulus which can impact behavior. So, behaviorism is a learning theory that focuses on some behaviors. It is broken into two areas: classical or behavioral or operant, which have been explained just a while back. It says for an instance, one another example of an operant of classical conditioning is that the child feel anxious at the time of being assessed. So this is again classical conditioning, and operant conditioning uh, can be possible through positive and negative reinforcement. We are now looking at positive and negative reinforcement. What it is? It says that if you are rewarding the child, you are actually helping the child in modify a behavior and do things that you like. Whereas if you are cutting the child off during a conversation, this is another example of a negative reinforcement, because then the child worries. The child otherwise worries or turns upset or wonders that they are not being heard. And in such a negative, with such a negative stimulus, how their behaviors are modified, they turn more quiet. If a parent or a caretaker or mother is raising brow on child's certain expression, this is a negative reinforcement, hinting the child to modify their behavior. So, according to this conditioning, the brain is not part of the conditioning. It is only, the behavior is only modified through reinforcement, positive or negative. So, the individual in such a theory is considered as a passive learner whose behavior can easily be molded. So, positive conditioning, further examples are positive rewards, appreciation, or probing. I'll explain probing here and then I will explain overlapping. If I want my child to speak in a certain language, and my child is struggling learning that language, and if I keep on overlapping the child, how can overlapping be negative? The child will understand that, wait a minute, overlapping will hint that the child cannot take the floor, or whatever the child is saying is less important. Or I'm trying to show that whatever I'm saying, I'm trying to be in command. Whatever I'm saying is more important, and I'm taking the charge, I'm taking the command. These are examples of overlapping. Also, caretakers and parents overlap the kid when when they are hypercorrective of the child's speech. So if you keep on constantly correcting kids' expressions in term of, if they are oral expressions, if you are correcting their pronunciation, or if you are correcting their construction of expression, in either case, the child will turn out to be then more reluctant. Although we do it with an intention of improving maybe the child's expression and clarity and command over the language, but this turns the child reluctant. So overlapping is a negative reinforcement. This is an example of overlapping. Whereas probing, for an instant, a child comes to me, my child comes to me, and the child is just some 2 year and 6 months old, 2.5 years old. The child wants to be heard, appreciated, and if the child is unable to come up with some vocab, I may understand, may be able to understand that the child is using a certain word as a reference to a lot of other objects and is short of vocab. They don't have the repertoire to express themselves. So if I keep on hinting them something, or if I keep on repeating a few things so that they are able to pick those words, and if I keep on asking them, how have they been through it, or whether they liked or disliked it. So I'm trying to encourage the child. All of these ideas are encouraging the child to keep on speaking. to speak further. This sadly, in some context, does not happen even when the caretaker or with the in the primary years, the inhibition filter is so high that when somebody corrects a child, they turn out to be more reluctant in participating in the classroom discussions. घर में भी ये होता है. If you keep on always correcting them, they will either find someone or some other interlocutor, someone else to speak to, or they will be then so conscious of their speech that they will be then more reluctant. So this proves the fact that brain is not a part of conditioning. So we are not talking about learning, we are talking about acquisition. So operant conditioning can be positive or as well as negative. For negative conditioning, I have mentioned about probing, and the second is punishment. So if I want to modify a child's behavior, let's take it in the context of language. And if I keep on correcting them in the context of language, if I keep on correcting the child, if I keep on hushing the child, they will be next time reluctant. And in the context of psychology, if I don't appreciate them, if I do not acknowledge their efforts, if there are punishments like maybe you have to do this again, maybe you will not get the sweet you wanted, maybe you will not get your favorite footwear, any kind of punishment can impact their psychology, and this is going to modify their behavior. घरों के अंदर बच्चे को कहा जाता है कट्टी हो जाएंगे, बात नहीं करेंगे, कैंडी नहीं देंगे, टाटा लेके नहीं जाएंगे. Why are they given such those little punishment so as to modify their behavior? So this is all about B.F. Skinner's proposes. There are some disadvantages to it as well. It completely ignore learner differences. एक ही घर के अंदर if there are two kids, the other in some cases outsmarts maybe the younger one or the elder one. Why? Because they are different in their acquisition process. They may not like repetition, they may not like rewards, they may be unaffected by rewards and punishment, they make their own way out. So it ignore learner differences. The same happens in the class. Not every, okay. Keep in mind, we are seeing how language is acquired. So we are also going to see that in classroom when teachers apply drilling for everyone. Everyone has to do this exercise again. Everyone has to write this spelling 10 times so that they learn the spelling. This is repetition. So writing a spelling 10 times will not help every learner to learn spellings. I've seen teachers writing the correct spelling for a word and the child still will write correct spelling for the first two times, but then they will again write some spelling which they have in their mind. Whereas other kids learn spelling through syllable breakup. They learn words through syllable breakup. So there are learner differences that we need to understand. So this theory completely ignores learner differences and the efforts they can make on their own. Biological factors, that is, the kid's own ability to learn, acquire a certain phenomena is totally ignored. It also consider human passive learners. So are we animals? Do we have a basic anatomy that what can be applied to rats and hamsters can be applied on us? You may search Pavlov's experiments on cats and hamsters to find out how he felt that if a cat, through trial and error method, understood how to free itself from the cage, the same applies to humans, and then they can do things quickly through negative or positive reinforcement. It also treats fear, which is the biggest enemy of language learning. It does not take into account CPH, a critical period hypothesis where we are going to see inhibition filters. This is not relevant to this theory. This we are going to study when we are doing the next theory, the theory of Chomsky. Actually, this is not it. There is more to it. It also approaches on its approach is only focused on observable behavior. What is going in the person's mind? How negatively are they taking an impression is not considered, is not focused on in this theory. Acha. Now, where will you see this theory being applied? We are going to see how this theory actually even helps in some context. It is used in schools for children age 5 or 9. I know 5 and 9 is too not too young now, because these theories were said decades back. We see the same thing can be applied to kids where in the primary wing they are between 2 and 5 years of age, or 3 or 5 years is more appropriate. Teachers use a behaviorist techniques such as positive reinforcement, awards and sweets and candies and stars, so that and praises when they are doing their work correctly, using the language correctly, to appreciate their efforts, so that they continue keeping up with the same zest. Language instruction also involves repetitive drills, like how kids are taught that avocado, avocado, not with a single song technique. This is done a number of times over the day, in a week, over the month, and then the kid is able to learn all the alphabets in a series. It does not apply for all Montessori and kindergarten system. It varies from system to system. This is why these are theories. These are not universal phenomena, universally accepted. One theorist believe in, and maybe some school of thought opts for it. Other may adopt a different approach, which we are going to see in another technique. So vocabulary is learnt. How vocabulary is learnt in many schools. Teacher teaches kids that this is a pencil, this is a that, this is a table mat. The kids teachers keep on constantly drilling, and the kid keep on repeating. So this reinforcement can help kid. This repetitive learning, yeah, this repetitive behavior can help kid acquire some language, some command over vocab, and even modify behavior. The same may be also is also happening at home. At home, how kids are learning languages when they are praised, when they are encouraged, when they are being talked to. The child keeps on gaining a command over a huge repertoire. The mothers keep on telling kids some stories, singing maybe a lullaby or some poetries, and engaging kids in a meaningful conversation which help them learn vocab and words. So both school and home environments enable kids to acquire language through positive and negative reinforcement, where positive reinforcement includes feedback and engaging language activities. Negative reinforcement includes punishments and overlapping. Okay, we are going to finish with behaviorism here, and we are going to now move to the second theory, which is mentalism. Let's have a look at how other theorists believes. What do other theorists believes, and if they have any research-based ideas to prove their theories. The second theory we are going to see is that of Noam Chomsky, also called the mentalist theory, nativism, or mentalism, or even innatism. We are also going to see a few real life cases to see, like for real life cases, we have seen in behaviorism that kids are able to learn language through positive, not negative reinforcement. This happens in everybody's closest proximity. You might have learned this way maybe in your early years, in your early education years. Now we are going to see mentalism, which says your mental is your inbuilt device. There's an inbuilt device in your mind, in your brain, associated totally with brain, which helps you learn anything. Mentalism, Noam Chomsky believed that every kid in the world is born with a blank slate in their mind, but it has, but it which only requires some outside stimulus. Once a stimulus is received, it activates on its own, it activates itself and is able to outsmart the stimulus always. This is possible through a device in the brain which is called LAD, language acquisition device. It says that all the beings on the planet, all the humans on the planet are born with an innate facilities and they can learn it, which only requires some basic stimulus. You see, if the kid is taught 2 2s are 4 and 2 plus 2 is 4, the kid already is able to determine that 2 Tixa is 12, whereas 8 plus 7 is 15. They are able to understand basic expression. If a child is taught the plural for leaf is leaves or for toy is toys, so they understand that plural for car is cars. Sheep is sheeps. I understand this one is a virtuous error, but you see, they are able to apply basic patterns. So their brain needs a stimulus to activate itself. We also have biological evidences for these, which we are going to study in this theory in a while. So, what this theory believes, it says that, okay, this was proposed in the 1960s, the lead concept, the innate, the already granted by the God ability to acquire a language. It says all the humans can learn a language, even with minimal help. Even if nobody is there, the child can still understand. Formal teaching might not be required. I was giving you this example a while back, maps, books, leaves, although the correct is the VES form, but the child is already able to apply patterns even with a minimal basic help without even any formal teaching. Why? Because there's a device in their brain. We are going to look at the biological different evidences. So this mentalist approach believes that brain can produce infinite number of phrases and expressions with only an exposure to a limited number of words. Parent कितने word सिखा देंगे? The child rest then starts picking it. So they believe that Bloomfield, however, just like behaviorists believe that kids learn by mimicking and copycatting, mentalists believe that they can even produce entire new sentences that they might have never heard before. ऐसा ही है ना घर के अंदर, if the mother is talking about plate टूट गई, तो later the child might be saying मेरी plate टूट गई, I was serving myself some food in it, वो plate जो है grey color की थी, white color की थी. The child can construct a lot of expressions even with minimum help. There's a biological evidence to it as well. For an instance, kids who are born with speech difficulties or Down syndrome, तो हमें पता चलता है कि brain का एक certain part है which has been damaged or which uh, how should I quote it in more euphemized words, is not working, is not functional in an ideal state. So the kid is suffering with a speech um challenge or maybe Down syndrome. So in such cases, it proves the fact कि उस बच्चे को आप जितना भी सिखा लें, kids who are specially abled, आप उनको कितना भी सिखा लें, they will not be able to acquire those language patterns because उनके brain में that device is not functioning well. This proves the fact that when behaviorists mention that brain is not part of any behavior, where I'm writing it here, where behaviorists mention that brain is not an active part of acquisition, mentalists give examples, especially of specially abled ones who, even with constant drilling, constant modeling, repetition, positive and negative reinforcement, fail to fail to modify their behaviors or acquire language. ठीक है? Fail to modify behaviors or acquire language. The language acquisition device is not any device as such in brain. It's a hypothetical module. It is believed to be a module in the mind. Okay? And what can it do? It has an innate ability to acquire language. This was proposed in 1960s. It later evolved into Chomsky's greater theory of universal grammar. Let me explain you universal grammar right after it, which says all the kids in the world acquire similar grammar pattern. For an instance, all the kids born anywhere in the world, those infants in the world, first speak vowels, the long vowels. Those born in, oh, Pakistan, India, UK, Russia, born anywhere, they all can speak. Their initial sound is long vowels. If you are wondering how, so they cry. And the cry sounds are e, oo. These are the sounds that they might be even making when they are laughing. Their laughter, the kids' laughters, are again e, oo, e sounds. You will never hear an infant with speaking consonants like ha ha, th, ma, not. Why not? They cannot. So this is part of universal grammar. Also, universal grammar states all the kids in the world first speak nouns. They acquire nouns first and later comes verb. Anywhere in the world, that child will speak nouns. Nouns like name of their twice, their feed, their caretaker, and later they will use words like आना है, जाना है, bye bye, come here. These will come later. So be it any language. Universal grammar. This is what universal grammar is, which is universally the same everywhere. This is what we're working on. That lead is there in the brain. Acha, one more thing. This also believes that since the brain is vital part of the kids learning, we are going to now see effective filter, and because of effective filter, this acquisition increases or decreases. What is effective filter? We are now going to see effective filter in context of CPH, also called critical period hypothesis. Language can occur, this states that language can occur best until age of puberty, after which this effective filter turns really high. Let me explain it in a non-technical context. For an instance, this is a language center. This is a language center, Eureka. जहाँ पे कहते हैं 3 माह में इंग्लिश बोलना सीखे हाँ यूरेका से 3 माह में इंग्लिश बोलना सीखे. Let's see what happens over there. Mostly we see that the people joining Eureka are in one class there will be peoples with different age range. So maybe that class has some kids who are somewhere 10 years, 11 years, 8 years, 9 years, and within that class there will be some peoples who are aged between maybe 15 years, 17 years. Someone who is 21 years old is still in the same class, because these language centers give admission on the basis of language proficiency. Who is going to learn? Who is going to improve first? The one who is 21 or the one who is 8? You might be thinking it's the one who is 21 because they have more exposure and they are more confident. However, the case is otherwise. The child who is just 8 years by age, whose effective filter is too low, will acquire language far quickly. What makes them acquire language very quickly is because their effective filter, then their inhibition filters or effective filter, both mean the same thing, are too low. यानी कि इनको कोई परवाह नहीं है that someone is going to laugh at me. What will the teacher think? How will I sound? Should I do it or should I not do it? Should I wait for my turn? 8 years, 6 years का बच्चा spontaneous है. वो कुछ भी बोल देगा, जल्दी बोल देगा और जल्दी उसको correction मिलेगा. And they will never feel offended. Even if they are being scolded, they do not take offense. In fact, they keep on uh, trying even harder and more to maybe please the teacher to get more scores. They are because easily pleased. If they are turned down easily, but they are easy to please, they can quickly get on with learning. However, the one who is 21 years old, or even 19 years old will worry if they are being questioned whether their pronunciation is erratic or not. Okay, let me correct this. They might worry even if their pronunciation is erratic or not. What if they are laughed at by others? Whether they should wait for their turn? Whether do they need to talk to the instructor or not if there is any need? They constantly worry. They constantly keep on worrying. So the irony in our country is कि हमारी country के अंदर kids are learning Chinese and Japanese now after their A levels here. Somewhere where they have already reached their closing teenage threshold. So this is wrong. They could have learned better if they were learning those languages in their early years. So one of the evidences of CPH is the case of just a minute. Difficulties. This is not it. In the next session, we are also going to see the case of Genie, where we are going to see someone with constant exposure but lack of parents or caretakers care, how the child behavior turned out to be that feral. We are going to study those cases in context of CPH in the next sitting. I hope this recording helps. Please make sure you complete your notes before the next session. Take care. Allah Hafiz.